Welcome to a special episode of the Mainline Podcast. I'm Adam Jacquez. He's Tyler Burton. Today, we're diving into the question, should Dillon Gabriel have gone pro after this 2022 college football season? But before we dive into that, Tyler, I want to hear your opinion first on Dillon Gabriel. Why do you think it was so important for him to return to OU and put another track record, a year of track record out for NFL scouts?
Well, I mean, Adam, I for one was never one in the camp that thought that there was any real serious consideration being given to Dillon Gabriel actually entering the 2023 NFL Draft. Simply put, I guess for three reasons. Number one is his relationship with Jeff Lebby, dating all the way back to his time at UCF. He's been in this scheme for 3 years now. He knows this like the back of his hand. He's got a tremendous relationship with him. He still has more work to do when you talk about the elite NFL quarterback draft prospect. I still think that Dillon Gabriel has some areas in which he can grow, and I think one more season in Oklahoma or in Norman would allow him to do so. And number two, I think staying on the topic of on-field success, Dillon Gabriel had some moments this year where he truly shined. Everybody knows about it. The run at Nebraska, the deep ball connections. Down the field to Marvin Mims. I thought he played probably one of his best games. Of his collegiate career. Certainly, I think probably his best game in an Oklahoma uniform. Just a couple of weeks ago in the Cheez-It Bowl. So you have an opportunity for Dillon Gabriel to come back and not just build upon what he does, as an individual, not just, build upon, the accuracy, the arm talent, getting more comfortable in the pocket, but you also have a guy that with him coming back to Oklahoma in 2023, you're looking at a guy that's trying to elevate this team to win a Big 12 championship, to compete for a national championship. When you talk about some of the, some of the things when you look at the elite quarterback talent that Oklahoma has had in the last 20 years, White, Bradford, Mayfield, Murray, Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams, throw him into that. It's all about, conference championships, playing late into November, putting not just yourself in a position, to win individual awards, but you're putting your team in a position where you can go out there and compete for a championship and bring home the hardware.
I don't disagree with you on really any of those points. And if you've listened to the Mainline podcast over the last 7-8 months or so that we've seen Dillon Gabriel and what he's been able to do on the field at Oklahoma, I've probably been one of his biggest defenders as far as saying, hey, I think he's good enough. I think this team just needs to put him in a better position to win. This coaching staff needs to put him in a better position as well. My thought line, and I don't necessarily think that he was ready to go lead an NFL franchise or anything like that, but I kind of think this may have been his window to go to the NFL draft this offseason rather than stick around and take on the risk that maybe Jackson Arnold takes your role or maybe a whole bunch of other quarterbacks from around the country rise up the draft board faster than Dillon Gabriel did. And so my theory is that he should have gone pro this year simply based off the math and the numbers. So let's dig a little bit deeper into that. I went back and I looked at the past 6 NFL drafts, 2017 to 2022, an average of 11 quarterbacks per draft were drafted in those NFL drafts. This year, we've seen a lot of college quarterbacks return to school for maybe a 5th or 6th year in college, some of them entering into the transfer portal, finding new destinations. And so there's not as many quarterbacks going in the NFL draft. So let's take a look at some of those names. And Tyler, I want you to kind of give me your thoughts as far as whether you think Dillon Gabriel had a better chance of getting drafted than some of these guys. We'll skip down the list a little bit because I think we're going to be all in agreement here. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson out of Florida. Probably those guys are locks. No real debate or discussion there. Then it gets kind of interesting. I think Hendon Hooker, I think we probably agree there. He's getting drafted over Dillon Gabriel in this scenario.
Absolutely.
Now it gets really murky. You've got Tanner McKee, the 6'6" Stanford signal caller, didn't have necessarily impressive stats, but fits the prototype. Would you take Tanner McKee over Dillon Gabriel still?
No, I would take Dillon Gabriel, but I think you've got to look at it from a GM standpoint with an NFL organization. I mean, you're looking at a quarterback in Dillon Gabriel, kind of undersized. Doesn't have elite arm talent like some of the other prospects in this NFL draft. The intangibles are there, the leadership on and off the field. He's a guy that, once Dillon Gabriel gets into an NFL locker room, guys are going to gravitate towards him. Guys are going to respond. They're going to play for him. So he's got that going for him at this point right now. But I think you do make a good point, Adam, because once you do kind of get past, that top 4 to 5 guys with Young, Stroud, Levis, so I'm not sold on Will Levis one bit. Anthony Richardson, if he can develop as a passer, then you're looking at a really, really good quarterback prospect at the next level. Hendon Hooker is another one. If he doesn't get hurt, he probably wins the Heisman Trophy. He's probably the Davey O'Brien Award winner. Really, really good prospect. Hopefully his rehabilitation process is going good as well. But yeah, I think that when you look at the 2023 draft, and by no means do you come to the Mainline podcast to talk about, NFL draft prospects, talent at the next level. But I do think that it's imperative that Dillon Gabriel at this point right now, I think if he did decide he wanted to come out early, he's a day 3 pick, Adam. I mean, I don't think, there's no doubt about that. I think he's a, maybe early round 4, probably round 5 type of athlete. I think that one of the things you're going to see in the 2023 draft, once you get past that 3-headed quarterback monster of CJ Stroud, Will Levis, Bryce Young, I think that you're going to see that other positions on the field there's going to be teams in more need of those positions, at tackle, at linebacker, defensive end. And you just look at some of the talent that's just go look at Todd McShay or Mel Kiper's draft board. There's a lot of talent, and it's not just at the quarterback position, and teams are going to take advantage of that.
So we only made it down to number 6 on my list. There's a couple other guys on there: Malik Cunningham, Jaron Hall, Max Duggan, so on and so forth. We won't go into all those guys necessarily, but kind of sounds like and I kind of agree with you. I think that's kind of the area where maybe you start considering Dillon Gabriel over some of those other guys on the list. Maybe you don't, but he's in at least the conversation. It's not important whether he's over one guy or the other, but it kind of illustrates my point that he's already there, well above that 11 threshold to get drafted in this year's draft. Now I kind of want to take a look ahead, and it's a little bit harder to predict because it's another year in the future, but the 2024 NFL draft, a lot more names going into this draft because you have guys that aren't going to be able to stay in college. They're not going to have that COVID year any longer. Let's skip down past a few of the big names like Caleb Williams and Drake May, where I think we're in agreement there that Dillon Gabriel doesn't have a chance to really pass those up or be in conversation there. I think Sam Hartman probably falls in that bucket as well. He's going to be at Notre Dame. He's going to be putting on a showcase there. Then you've got some interesting names. You've got Devin Leary. You've got Bo Nix. You've got Michael Penix. You've got some guys that are putting some really good tape together. Are you taking Dillon Gabriel over anyone in that group necessarily?
No, and you also left out the names Jordan Travis and Spencer Rattler, which again, I know
I was going to bring Rattler up.
Well, not to steal your thunder, but I mean, I know the Spencer Rattler, he's had his struggles, during his first few years in college, but again, from an NFL GM and a draft scout standpoint, you're looking at all the tools that make up the quarterback position. He's got elite arm talent. He has the ability to stand in the pocket. He can make a few plays when he has to improvise. So again, I don't want to use this as an opportunity to we're not bashing Dillon Gabriel whatsoever. We're extremely thankful he's the quarterback in Norman. The expectations are very, very high for Dillon going into 2023. We're happy he's going to be part of Team 129. But I think it just kind of echoes something that we've talked about, for the better part of the last 6 months, Adam. It's just when you turn on the tape and you watch Dillon Gabriel play football, really, really good college player, but I don't see how his game translates to the next level to where he can be, one of 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe he can find his way onto a roster. He can be a serviceable backup. God knows, you look at the Chase Daniels, the Colt McCoys of the world, you can have a very, very nice, successful life as a backup quarterback in the National Football League. But as far as looking at the 2023 draft board and even fast forwarding one more year where you've got Caleb, you've got Drake, Penix, Jordan Travis, Bo Nix, Jane Daniels, Hartman, Leary, I agree with you. I think you're I kind of agree with where you're coming from, but I just think it has more to do with the fact that I don't see, as we sit here on January 18th, 2023, Dillon Gabriel's draft stock, whether it was this year or next, just being super, super high.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm super pumped that he's coming back to
Absolutely.
OU.
Absolutely.
I think everything breaks right, which obviously that's a lot of luck and a lot of progression for this Sooners team, but everything breaks right. They have a chance to maybe go to a playoff game, potentially.
Sure.
But I think he is probably going to be a better college quarterback than he will in the NFL. But just looking at the numbers and going, okay, even with a great year in 2023, he's going to have so many guys that are already in front of him. He's going to have guys that are behind him that are going to be able to put up a lot more tape. Guys that are prototypical sizes like KJ Jefferson, like Tyler Shuck out of Texas Tech, like Will Howard out of Kansas State. I put together a list of 36 guys here between this year's draft and next year's draft. And there was one thing that Dillon Gabriel did not have that all of those other guys had, and it was over 6 feet of height. And so he's playing an uphill battle there. But yeah, I thought it was interesting to look through that and thought, maybe he didn't have the best year that he would have wanted to. But I kind of wonder if this year was truly his opportunity to have success in the NFL, to get drafted, to get a much better look at a position, at a being on a roster in the NFL than it would be next year, even if he does have a really good year in 2023.
I'm very, very excited. Not just with what Dillon can do, but when you talk about the overall impact and the looking down the field. When you look at the trajectory that this Oklahoma football program is on, if Dillon would have decided to go pro this year, then your starting quarterback is an incoming 18-year-old true freshman, 5-star Jackson Arnold. So very, very rare do you ever see a true freshman come in, especially at the quarterback position, and be a difference maker at the Power 5 level. So Dillon coming back one more year, that allows Jackson to – he's going to be QB2. It's safe to say if he can throw a football, he's already ahead of Davis Beville. But I really think that this stands to be a gain, not just for Dillon Gabriel in year one, but I think Jackson Arnold also has a tremendous amount that he can take away from this season, being able to learn from a guy like Dillon Gabriel. I think it only stands to both of them to gain benefit from it.
Well, let us know in the comments if you agree, if you disagree. Do you think Dillon Gabriel should have gone to the NFL this year, or did he make the right decision in coming back to OU? We appreciate everyone
and again,
jumping in.
We are very happy that DG is back in Norman for one more season. Can't wait to watch this guy play when OU tees it up here in 9 more months.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for watching this week's episode of the Mainline Podcast. If you're not already subscribed to our podcast, find the link here on YouTube in the description, and we will see everyone again next week for another episode of the Mainline Podcast.